Yes, you are allowed to feel that way. Yeah, that way. You're allowed to have whatever emotions you want. You're allowed to have whatever feelings you have. When somebody hurts you, when someone takes advantage of you, when somebody does something wrong to you, you're allowed to feel how you want to about that. When we stuff down our emotions, when we numb them with drugs, with alcohol, with keeping busy, hypervigilance, becoming obsessed about our careers, we're doing ourselves a massive disservice. We're not allowing ourselves to really know the truest version of ourselves. And we keep doing what we think we're supposed to do. And if you're like me, you wind up in your early 30s thinking, how did I get here? Welcome to Matters of the Mind, Rise to Your Worth. I'm your host, Matt Gerlach, and I help high achievers who privately battle with shame, anxiety, and burnout create second halves of their lives that is filled with abundance, fulfillment, and complete alignment. At 33 years old, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure. I started having panic attacks. I was abusing drugs and alcohol because I had emotions that I was trying to numb because I didn't know I was supposed to feel that way. I went on a journey to heal myself, and underneath, I learned I had unrealized, unprocessed childhood trauma that had my confidence almost at zero. My self-worth was non-existent. I couldn't set boundaries. I couldn't advocate for myself because deep down, I thought something was wrong with me for my feelings and my emotions. I've healed. I've earned millions of dollars by starting my own business and advocating for my worth. Let me tell you, people will use you as long as you let them use you. But when you start to set boundaries and you start to tend to your needs, everything in life changes. Your life becomes fulfilled, abundant, and aligned beyond your wildest dreams. I want to take you back through the beginning of my journey, and I've developed a signature framework program, Rise to Your Worth, and I help other high achievers create these lives that are filled with abundance, fulfillment, and alignment. And it all starts with a true and honest assessment of where are you at, being honest with yourself about your true place in the world, your true feelings. And for so many of us, we have been conditioned that we need to adapt to situations. We need to accept things the way they are. We're grateful for the breadcrumbs that are thrown our way. We are taught that we're not supposed to feel that way. That's actually what I used to think. I thought I wasn't supposed to feel that way. When I started my journey, I was working with therapists, coaches. To be honest, I was talking to anyone who would listen. I always had the gift of gab, and deep down, I subconsciously knew that by talking about my feelings, I'd find answers. I continued working with coaches and therapists, and the more that I uncovered about my past, the more I uncovered about the true feelings I had, the more I was able to change how I felt about my life, what I wanted for my life. Nothing would happen, though, unless I was honest with myself about the true state of my life. I like to say, keep it inside, and it's going to eat you alive. I believe that life will send you wake-up calls, and they will get louder and louder until you listen. Oprah talks about this, and she says that life will keep bumping you upside the head until finally you listen. Undoubtedly, I had wake-up calls that were happening prior to these panic attacks, this diagnosis of high blood pressure, but they weren't disruptive in my life enough to listen. It's crazy to say this, but in my 20s, I don't remember a single moment that I sat down on my bed or on a couch or in a chair and just was. I don't remember a time that I wasn't running from my feelings. I found alcohol around 16 years old, and like a lot of kids of my generation, we had parties, we had fun. It wasn't really a problem for me until college. I leaned on it extensively to connect with others, and I was honestly drinking every single night. I was blacking out at parties. I was trying to be the life of the party because deep down, I thought that something was wrong with me. I had these feelings that I was always afraid to admit because growing up, I was conditioned that, especially being a man, I wasn't supposed to have emotions. I wasn't supposed to feel that way. Throughout my 20s, I continued. I was always a high performer, and I always thought that as long as I was doing well at work, doing well in society, I paid my bills, I kept a clean house, I volunteered, I did things for others, I thought that I was fine. I didn't think that there was ever anything beneath the surface, that there was ever any emotions that needed to be dealt with. So at 33, when these panic attacks started happening, I quickly learned that my life was trying to tell me something. I had just started a business, a consulting business, and it was in a direction that I truly didn't want to go in. But driven out of scarcity, I didn't question it at all. I went forward, and that is when my life started to send me these wake-up calls. I remember one of the saddest moments of my life. Looking back on it, I am grateful for it, like I'm grateful for, I think, everything that's happened. But I was living in New York at the time near Madison Square Park, and it was in January. My business was starting to take off. I had no boundaries, and I was doing anything I could to make money, to make my clients happy. I was a complete people pleaser, and I was having a lot of problems in my life. My emotional health was at an all-time low. I was worried that I was going to hurt myself. I was privately going to the doctor every other day, showing up, begging for help. I was walking around the park, pacing, smoking cigarette after cigarette. It was an afternoon. It was snowing, actually. I was freezing. My hands were icicles, and I must have had 15 cigarettes walking around the park in the hour or so that I was doing it. And I was harming myself. I didn't realize, at the time, that these cigarettes were a mask. They were trying to numb the anxiety and the depression that I was feeling. And below, there was something that I needed to acknowledge. As time went on and I started to talk about my feelings and give an honest assessment of where I was at in life and what was beneath everything, I started to feel free for the first time ever. The first real spiritual journey, the first real spiritual moment of my life, two girlfriends and I went to Bali for a yoga retreat. A couple of months after this all started happening, I needed to get away. And it was a private yoga retreat, and we were working with a yoga instructor, and I learned to meditate for the first time, and we were journaling about our feelings. And I remember crying so much as I started to just pry open what was inside. My heart was broken, and I didn't know why. As I started working with my therapists and coaches, I started to open up. I started to talk about what was underneath, and it took a while. Again, I thought I wasn't supposed to feel that way. My childhood was traumatic. In 5th grade, I lost all of my friends. I'm a gay man, and in 5th grade, my friends, my male friends, started to see something was different about me, and they dropped me overnight like a bad habit because I was different. I don't harbor animosity towards them. They're kids, but the devastating part of this whole thing was that I kept it all inside. I was afraid, because I was gay, that if I talked about it, if my parents found out, if adults found out about it, this is crazy to admit, but I feared castration. I feared that I would be sent to some camp and never be able to return. I remember growing up when I was being punished, there were times when I was told that I was going to be sent away. So if I was going to be sent away for misbehaving, for eating dessert when I was told not to, what have you, I definitely feared that being homosexual in a situation where I didn't know a single homosexual person, I feared the consequences could be devastating. I could be killed. That's why childhood trauma is so debilitating. We're children. I'm a 41-year-old man, and there's still so many things that I can't understand. There's still so many enlightenments that happen, things that didn't make sense 5 years ago that make sense today. I'm assuming that in 20 years, there's going to be a whole slew of things that I didn't understand at 41 that I understand at 61. But at 8 years old, at 10 years old, we have very limited knowledge, and it's just impossible for us to make sense of what's going around, and we have a tendency to assume the worst. So I kept this all inside. I don't think I told a single person about this until I started opening up in therapy. And I'm writing a book. I was working with my writing coach. And this was 2 years ago at 39 years old that I finally opened up to her about this devastating experience. And I remember feeling shameful. It was really hard for me to write this down and share it with another living human being. And it's actually one of the proudest things of my life to do that. And here I am sharing this with you, and it feels so natural. It feels so normal to have things in the past that hurt me, things that I'm ashamed of, and be able to share them with people. I now know that these shameful events, these things that we have held tight to, are really what is eating us alive. Nothing is going to change unless we admit how we feel, unless we admit these events that have happened in the past that have been eating away at us. I've developed this framework, my signature framework, Rise to Your Worth, and this is step 1 of the framework. I'm working with people to help them understand the state of their current life. I think so many of us, like me, grew up in homes where our parents tried their best. In my home, there was love. There was banana bread being cooked. Christmas presents were aplenty. We had a lot of good things going on in our family. And until in my mid-30s, when I started really being open to admitting this, I wasn't able to admit that underneath all of the love and the attempts to do the right thing, there was a lot going on. And my caretakers were not set up for success all the time. And tempers were lost. And things were said that shouldn't have in fights and in anger. And I kept this with me my entire life and just always thought something was wrong with me because of it. On my journey, the thing that really helped me the most in opening up to the honest reality that I felt inside, the honest state of my emotional health, my yoga teacher taught me this. She introduced it as both. Both can exist. Our parents could have tried their absolute best and it could hurt us. We can be at a job that is pleasant and it can be the wrong fit. We can be in a relationship with a man or a woman who is kind to us, but they're not giving us what they need because of their own limitations. For us to admit the true state of our feelings doesn't need to necessarily diminish somebody else. Somebody else doesn't have to be wrong for our feelings to be right. When I look back at my life, as I started to become an adult, I think back to high school, where at 15 years old, I was supposed to choose an elective. I was supposed to start making decisions about my life, and I couldn't do it. I honestly had no idea what I was supposed to choose. I had a lot of limiting beliefs. I thought I was supposed to be grateful for what I had. I knew that financial problems were a big thing in our family. There were opportunities like graphic design or photography, which would have required an investment of a camera or a computer, and I knew that my family didn't have that to give me, so I limited myself. That kept going. And when I started college, I'm very fortunate that I did choose a business administration degree and I got into a very good school, University of California, Riverside. The gods were on my side with this because I'm really happy with my education. I learned a lot about a lot and didn't pigeonhole myself in a certain area, but I didn't choose that consciously. I chose the path of least resistance. I thought that I was not artistic at all, which is just absolutely crazy because I'm writing a book, I'm creating content, sharing this with you, and I consider myself to be an artist more than a lot of people these days, but I limited myself. I didn't want to know myself. I was afraid of what I'd find underneath. The first job I pursued was in metal sales. I worked for a metal distribution center. Who out there wants to be a metal salesperson when they grow up? Certainly not me. I did that for 5 years. I wound up in baby products. Very nice industry. I certainly don't think there's people out there that are saying, gosh, I can't wait to grow up and be a baby product salesman. It wasn't till this wake-up call happened at 33 that I got to really start being honest with myself about what I want from my life. I want to impact people. I cry all the time when I see sad things. I care about nothing more than equality, than helping people have a fighting chance at life that is, by the day, getting more and more complex and more complicated. Gone are the days where, in our parents' generation, hard work paid off. You got to get a job, work hard, buy a home, get a retirement. That doesn't exist almost anywhere in the world anymore. We have to be crafty. We have to be strategic. We have to leverage our strengths. We have to advocate for ourselves. We have to be good marketers and market the value of our services, our products, the businesses we're starting, ourselves, so we're not getting paid just an unlivable wage in life. In my program, I take you through goal setting, through strategic planning, through execution, through learning to live in a life of abundance and alignment, and how to forgive yourself, how to abandon perfectionism, how to address these traumas that happen. But it all starts with being honest with yourself. How are you going to possibly admit what you want for your life if you can't even admit the current state of your life? I know this is a tall order, and if you've been following me for a while, you've probably heard me say, I don't really think these massive changes can be made without help. I don't want to talk like I'm on this soapbox and like I've done this all myself. I have not done this all myself. I've had help, and help comes in a lot of different forms these days. I think we're at this beautiful place in our lives, in the world right now, where you can pick up your phone and have access to millions, hundreds of millions of free podcasts, people like me helping you learn what I've learned. And it doesn't always have to look like expensive $300 an hour therapy. I am a firm believer in $20 books. I have learned more from books than probably anything in my life. I think about books like you have these people that are willing to spend years writing this book, fight tooth and nail to get this published, to sell it for $20, not even make $20, and they're sharing their entire life's lessons, their mistakes with you. And I am a firm believer in reading, and I have to honestly say, now that I've been a reader for the past 5-6 years, I don't make a lot of mistakes in life because I learn from other people's mistakes. I don't think there's anything wrong with failure, with mistakes in the first place, but these books are so underrated. The podcast, Audible, I think I pay $13 a month and I can listen to audiobooks. There's so much content out there that you can learn from. And I think we underestimate the value of our friends and family. If anyone that I love in my life were to approach me right now and say, Matt, I'd love to have an hour-long conversation with you and learn what you've learned and help me understand the situation that I'm going through, I'd be more than happy to do that. We forget that people like helping people. Think about yourself. If somebody asked you for help, wouldn't you be happy to help them? Doesn't it feel good that you are admired, that someone respects the skill set you have, that actually wants to learn from you? Yeah, that's the way it is. We want to help other people out. I want to leave you with this today. Everything starts with excavating the truth, introspecting, looking inward. You don't have to believe all of your emotions. You don't have to chase them all. It's not like, hey, I am stressed out at work, I'm going to go quit tomorrow. No. That's not what this is about. This is about being honest about your emotions. Maybe the problem is not the job. Maybe the problem is the way you're looking at the job. Maybe the problem isn't your son, your daughter, your husband, your wife. Maybe it's the way that you're showing up. Maybe you're expecting things. Maybe you're expecting them to make you happy. But it all starts with looking inward and being honest about what is bothering you, what is keeping you awake at night, what is causing you that stress and anxiety and that worry. As I'm working with my clients right now, one of the first things I suggest is journaling. For me, journaling is the most accessible modality I know to help myself. It's nearly free, the cost of a notebook. I think so many of us are afraid to journal because we're afraid if somebody else finds it. I'm to the point now where I don't care if I'm dead, have at it. I think it's going to be hilarious for someone to look at my thoughts and to see how crazy it was. Hopefully somebody learned something from it, but you can even write something down and throw it away. You can type it. I had somebody ask me yesterday, I thought I had to write with pen. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. Honestly, if you don't want to journal, even just talking to yourself in the bathroom mirror is a great first step. The call here is that when you're crabby and upset and your partner has caused you grief, to look in the mirror and to just vocalize it, to get it out of you, to hear what comes out. You might be surprised about what you hear, and either way, it's going to give you a starting place. You're going to learn more about yourself. When we're just in this cycle where we're angry and we're on our phones, drinking our wine, watching TV, just our minds going, we're tense, we're not going to get anywhere. We need to be honest about what is underneath that. And you can get it out of yourself. You can write it, you can speak it, you can even just meditate. You can do so many things to start getting these thoughts, these feelings, these agitations from a place of torment, from a place of suffering, into a place that you can actually do something with them. Thanks for listening, and I really hope you found this useful. I'm a coach, I'm a mentor, I'm an entrepreneur who's made millions of dollars. I have healed from childhood trauma. Things in my life are crazier than ever. My partner and I are on our surrogacy journey right now. It's insane. I think life is more crazy, more unknown than it's ever been before. I'm in the middle of a career pivot. He is as well. I like to say, I'm cool as a cucumber right now. I've learned what I can control. I've learned what I can't control. I've learned to, instead of worrying, turn that energy into something productive and use that to change the situation that I'm in. I work with high achievers just like you, and I help you get from a place of this shame and anxiety and burnout into a life that feels fully aligned, abundant, and fulfilled. I'd appreciate it if you could leave me a review, press the subscribe button, and I'll see you next week.